So if you are looking for a good website option, we're going to discuss that stuff next week. It is free for the first year, and you get a real estate realtor domain name. It's a pretty good setup, and we are one of the first companies in the nation to get a branded template with these websites. So basically, you can sign up and already have your Rise Realty branded website when that goes live. So, and they do have a few different options they're going to go over. So it's basically one of the benefits of NAR, whether you're on board with them or not. We are pretty much all paying them at the moment, so we might as well get what we can. And that is, it's a good option. So we went through the website last week, and it's a nice website. So if you're looking for a personalized website option that is just really not going to cost you hardly anything, it is a really good option. So we'll have them on next week. All right, so I like to discuss buyer profiles and seller profiles kind of throughout the year periodically. Excuse me. So the reason why is because, if we are putting out marketing pieces and having conversations and trying to work with the biggest demographic of buyers or sellers we can, we need to know who they are and what they're doing. So I put together this based off of a couple reports that were out there. Um, so if you are doing marketing, you're putting social media content out, or if you're wondering what kind of social media content should I be putting out, like I don't know what to talk about, this can at least help you with your content because it'll give you, a target audience that you can kind of cater to. So let's go ahead and get started. So I came across a, pretty extensive report slash article put out by NerdWallet. They do this once a year. They compile a whole bunch of data that they have on home buyers, who's buying, and all this kind of stuff, and they give you a bunch of statistics. So let's go ahead and break that down as far as looking at the statistics, but also what are you going to do with those statistics? So I'll give you a few suggestions as well as we kind of go along. So key findings. So this was based off of 2023. Who was buying last year? I know it was a fairly atrocious year for most uh, agents that I talked to, whether they're in the company or outside the company, had a bit of a down year. A lot of them still, did well, but it wasn't 2021 numbers. So um, let's go ahead and break it down. So obviously, buyer struggles in 2023. We all knew that it was an affordability thing for the most part. We were seeing rates in the 8% range, and that really put the brakes on the market back then. This is just, a quarter or two ago. So more than 3/4 of Americans who began in 2023 with the intention of buying a home fell short, and that was an increase from 66% of unsuccessful would-be buyers in 2021. Now, 2021, we are looking more at just the competitiveness of the market, whereas last year was more of an affordability issue. So some buyer optimism seeps into the 2024 home budgets. More than 1 in 10, so about 12% of Americans say they plan to purchase a home in the next 12 months. That number is not great, but it's up. And so it's saying that there are people who, kind of put plans on hold last year, and this year they're like, okay, rates are looking better. I have a little bit more buying power, and we're going to give it a go this year. Overall, the current perspective is gloom. About 2/3 of Americans say the housing market has never been worse for buyers than it is right now, and 64% of Americans believe a housing market crash is imminent in the next 3 years. More site obstacles to home buying in 2024 than past years, about 3/4, 74%, Though Americans say something is preventing them from buying a home in 2024, and this is up from 69% in 2023 and 63% in 2022 and 61% in 2021 and 2020. So you see, it looks like every year this percentage is going up of there's more obstacles for buyers, or they believe there are more obstacles for them to get into the housing market. Last year was definitely an affordability thing with the rates. The current market could have a lasting impact. Nearly two-thirds, 64% of Americans say home buying is not the measure of achievement it once was. And 54% of Americans say there's too much pressure to own a home in the US, a sentiment more commonly felt among younger generations. So it's somewhat of a gloom report, but let's talk about how we can create a more optimistic real estate narrative in challenging times like we have been in the past couple of years. So, there are home buyers out there. We just saw that there is a small percentage that are, they believe it's a good time. They're going to buy a home and, they want the stability and everything like that. So, what do you say in your marketing to address these concerns right here, these last 3 points basically, which seems to be a lot of negative sentiment with the buyers of it's just not a good time or it's not as important to me anymore. Um, so based on the key findings above, the majority of consumers believe the housing market has never been worse. Um, I've personally seen what I would consider worse markets. Um, but this is, the narrative that's been put out there, or this is what a lot of them are believing. So how do we get past that? So you want to acknowledge the concerns with your social media audience and your sphere of influence, of course. Ignoring public sentiment won't build trust with them as you being the authority or possibly the representative in a purchase. So begin by acknowledging the anxieties and challenges. Phrases like, I understand concerns about the housing market, or many people are worried about the potential crash, show empathy and open the door for a balanced perspective. So you focusing on the opportunity, you know, those of us that are homeowners know the benefits of home ownership. Maybe some of these buyers have not grew up in a home or a household that had home ownership. And so maybe they don't really understand the benefits of it. So, educating the public is part of our job on the benefits of home ownership. And that's, we talked last week about the Dream for All program, and that is geared towards first generation home buyers and things like that. So it's being recognized, and there are programs coming around to, educate the public on the value of home ownership. So focusing on the opportunity, highlight the silver linings with the current market, lower competition currently. I mean, 2020, 2021, beginning of 2022, we all know the market was just crazy. We had lines out the door for open houses. Anybody who wasn't a cash buyer or putting down a huge amount of money was getting just priced out of the market really quick or beat out with the offers. So right now, taking advantage of there being lower competition from other home buyers is an opportunity for people who have considered making a purchase happen. Look for motivated sellers. Now, I already am hearing um, from agents that, we're getting a lot of multiple offers again already. I just saw an article come out just this morning that purchases are up 8.3% already. So it's already kind of starting. I think a lot of people, as the rates were going down last year in quarter four, we were already getting into the holiday season. And I think people are like, you know what, let's just chalk up 23 to a loss. And next year we're going to get started because the rates are looking much more favorable. And we're really starting to see that right now. So looking for the motivated sellers. There are still sellers out there that really need to sell. Maybe their home's been on the market a little too long, things like that. And, we can possibly negotiate some extra seller concessions and things like that. And these are things to talk about with your buyer, less money out of pocket and stuff like that if we can get these seller concessions. Taking advantage of potential market correction points during the year, November, December, and probably January are going to shake out to be pretty flat, possibly a little bit negative in some areas as far as appreciation. But, what we saw in 2022 leading into 2023 was November, December, January, and actually February were months where there was no growth and there was actually a decline in home values. But then we gained all that back by March, April. And we're kind of seeing that same seasonal pattern go on right now. So over the next month or two is a pretty good time for the buyers to take advantage of what would be, the potential dip for the beginning of the year. Will we see another one at the end of the year? Seasonally, I'd like to say yes. It's way too early to tell that, but you can equate it similar to, timing the entry of a stock investment. Most people aren't trying to buy it when it's high. They're trying to find these little dips in the market. And, right now we're in a little bit of that, but I don't anticipate it really lasting very long with the kind of numbers that are coming out right now as far as home buyers jumping into the market. Emphasize the long-term benefits. So ownership has an inherent advantages beyond immediate market conditions. There's stability and security. This has been one of the top three reasons year after year after year for home buyers wanting to own a home, and that is stability and security. Owning a home provides stable housing costs, builds equity over time. The track record of money invested in real estate outpacing money sitting in savings account is just undeniable. So, customization and control. Homeowners have control over renovations, investments, and overall living environment. This is also a top three reason why home buyers want to have home ownership. And then the third, community and wealth building. Also one of the top three. I mean, they put these stats out every year, and these are in the top three all the time. So these are things that we should be talking about over and over and over again because people they think about this stuff, but then they let the fear get them, and the media and what's being put out there and things like that, and it starts to hold them back, or they start to think that they can't get into a home because of down payment or other reasons. So let's talk about the positives when we're putting out our content and marketing pieces and things like that. Sharing positive stories, home buyers that you're working with right now, especially first-time home buyers. Share success stories, happy clients, vibrant communities, things like that. Offer expertise and guidance in programs that are out there for getting home buyers in, especially first-time home buyers. Um, Focus on value, not hype. So avoid excessive optimism or sugarcoating. Be transparent about potential challenges, but emphasize your ability to guide clients through them. The home buying process is a little bit of a journey, and you're there by their side each step of the way, guiding them through. Authenticity is key. If you're doing any social media, they always say they stress, to be authentic in your messages, in your content. And you want to do the same when we're talking about housing market and opportunities and things like that. So let's look at some graphs. So they provided some graphs, and it's a nice little visual on explaining how the data worked out. So did you end up purchasing a home as you had originally planned in 2023? About 23% of the people said that they ended up buying in 2023. 23% also said no, they couldn't afford the available homes. So we had, an affordability issue. Like I was saying, we all know that. No mortgage rates rose too high. A lot of people, I think this ties into the affordability part, but also some people just did not want to pay those rates. They couldn't wrap their head around it. And they said, you know what, I'm just going to wait a little bit. It's fine. I have the ability to purchase, but I'm not going to at the moment. No, I couldn't find a home that met my needs. We still did have some inventory challenges. We're going to continue to have inventory challenges. That's kind of a norm these days. No, I think it'll be easier to buy in 2024. So 15% said they went ahead and put it off and they're going to try in 2024. Um, no, I made at least one offer, but ultimately didn't go under contract. So we had some people that were trying. Maybe they gave up after an offer or two. They couldn't qualify for a mortgage. No, for some other reason. No, they changed their mind about ever buying a home. Only 5%. So that's a very small number. So plans to buy are more likely to be shared among younger generations and those who live in urban areas. So this is what they found from their study. 21% of Gen Z, which is ages 18 to 26, and millennials, ages 27 to 42, plan to buy a home in the next 12 months. So this year, compared with 9% of Gen X and 4% of baby boomers. So what's the takeaway on that? Well, in my opinion, focus your marketing budget and content towards the Gen Z and millennials, as they are the largest segment looking to enter the housing market this year. Um, so that's a kind of a given in my opinion. So if you're trying to market to Gen X and baby boomers, your marketing dollar may not go quite as far, because they're simply just not looking to buy this year, potentially not as many of them as the Gen Z or millennials. 90% of urban Americans plan to buy in the next 12 months, compared with 10% of suburban and 8% rural Americans. So in the cities, is where you're going to find people looking to buy, relocate to, things like that. However, at least some of this year's home buying hopefuls may be underprepared. Only 31% of those planning to buy in the next 12 months have started a down payment fund. What's the takeaway for that? Discuss ways to save for a down payment. That's great content if you're doing any kind of social media. Creative scenarios with buying with family. This is something I'm seeing more and more of, where, parents and children are combining households, and they're buying a larger property actually, because, the parents are generally more funded. And maybe they're looking to downsize. So for them, combining in with, the children and buying a home with a nice ADU, two properties on one property, or just a really large house with, some separation. I'm seeing more and more of that myself. So that's a creative scenario. Or talking about down payment assistance programs that can help make their dream a reality. Like I said, last week we did the Dream for All program. There are other programs coming out. There's San Diego County has a program now that's kind of similar. They're doing a 22% down payment shared equity. City of Santa Ana, City of LA. There's quite a few out there. And so just getting to know these programs a little bit and discussing it is really solving one of the number one problems for buyers, which is I don't have the down payment. So what's next? So what steps have you taken in the home buying planning process thus far? So from their survey, they said, I have begun looking at homes on listing apps. So we're talking Zillows, Realtor.coms, Home.com, those types of apps. They're already searching. This for me is a segue into why having, a website or some sort of IDX search function, to where you can be sending them homes and providing a really nice home search solution, versus them going to these other sites. Because when they go to these other sites, obviously, the chances of them potentially not using you starts to increase, because that's when they start getting reached out to from other realtors, or they do a little inquiry on the thing, and all of a sudden, obviously that lead is sold over to, the realtors paying that third party site. And so that's how you lose your buyers. So having this stuff set up is, for me, always been really important ever since I got into real estate back in 2020. Well, I got in 2023, but in 2020, sorry, 2003, and then in 2004 is when I started my website with IDX, and that's how I've always used it. So I like to keep my buyers on my content. Um, I started paying attention to mortgage rates. So, each week we give you a little info on kind of where the rates are, so you can share that with your social media audience and with your sphere of influence. I've begun working on my credit score. That's good content right there, ways to improve your credit score. I've researched real estate agents, 40%, they're already researching. So if you don't have a digital footprint out there, if you can't be found online, how are they going to find you? So start working on that kind of stuff. And, if you want to schedule time with me to learn how to do that efficiently, it's something that doesn't cost money. It's just time and it increases your web presence. I set a firm home buying budget, 35%. I've attended open houses or showings, 34%. So that's a pretty high number. So that's open houses are a great way to start talking to people who are not working with a real estate agent yet. They're just really kind of starting. They want to get out there and get the feeling for what it, feels like to be in these homes and things like that. So, open house opportunities are uh, abundant. You can do open houses all the time, every weekend, and start working with buyers. And again, it's not a money thing; it's a time thing. So that is a way to market and get yourself in front of home buyers. Um, 31%, I have started a down payment fund. 24%, I have gotten pre-approved. 23%, I've hired an agent, and kind of so on and so forth. Only 5% haven't taken any steps yet. So you can see of the people who are planning on buying this year, they're already doing stuff right now. Now, if you're doing Facebook marketing, things like that, and you're getting these kind of people into your pipeline, you can see that they're not making offers yet, but they're just starting to do some of this stuff. So that's why it's important to have like a nurture process, when you get these leads and long-term follow-up. So, because there is a lot of steps that these guys are going through before they actually say, okay, now I'm ready, let's start doing it. Um, let's see, next up, 74% of Gen Z say the housing market has never been worse for home buyers than it is right now, compared with 71% of millennials, 66% of Gen X, and 60% of baby boomers. So, we went over that in the key points. Um, and what is the reason for that? Younger generations have a unique perspective. For example, 2/3 of Americans believe the current mortgage rates are unprecedented. Like this has never happened before, which is completely false. We have seen other times, many times in history, when interest rates have been, above 6, above 7, things like that. Obviously, the prices were a lot different. They're always going to make that argument. However, we just saw right now, FHA is down in the high fives. That's a pretty normal rate. I mean, that used to be a good rate even, before the last crash and, the early 2000s. If you got something in the fives back then, that was a really good rate. So, we need to educate them on um, that these rates are not unprecedented. What was unprecedented is 2 and 3%. Now that stuff we've never seen, right? So, and will we again? Uh, Chances are slim, in my opinion. More than 3/4 of Gen Z agree with this statement. 72% of millennials, 69% of Gen X, and 53% of baby boomers. So at the time of our survey, the average rate at 30-year fix was about 7.2. That rate broke into 8%, or that rate last broke 8% in 2000. It was over 10% a decade earlier and peaked over 18% in 1981. So again, dispelling myths, is part of our job as well. There is a lot of negative media out there and just false information. So, educating our clients will help them start to trust you a little bit more, especially if you're showing facts. Takeaway: sharing interest rate comparisons from the last year to this year, as well as optimistic outlooks from, trusted media sources, factual ones, can help clear up interest rate misconceptions. Nearly two-thirds, 64% of Americans believe the housing crash is imminent within the next 3 years, and fewer than half, which is 45%, say buying a home in the current market is a smart investment. So it's a pretty large segment. Still think that buying a home is a smart investment. Those are the ones you see in the graph above that are making preparations. So what's the takeaway? Focus on the consumers who believe home buying is a smart investment. Keep talking about the benefits and those top three reasons of why home buyers are looking, because those are the reasons, that 45% is going to be looking in the market. So sharing data on inventory and monthly appreciation rates can help change the perception of consumers waiting for a market crash. There's a lot of people that have held off for a decade or more waiting for this market crash to happen, and it just doesn't happen. And you know whether you believe it will or not, the chances remain slim simply because of inventory. There just is no inventory. Not like there should be, and not like there was a decade or two ago. We had inventory back then, and that was part of the housing crashes. Foreclosures and things like that were just flooding into the market, and that created just a very slippery slope. And now we don't really have that. There's just not a lot of inventory to deal with. So that 45% of home buyers that are in the market, they don't have a lot of choice out there. And so there's still multiple offers, even though, a lot of people think the housing market is bad. We still see multiple offers. We saw them last year still too. 74% of Americans say something is preventing them from pursuing homeownership or buying a new home in 2024, according to the survey. This has grown from 61% surveyed in the 2020 and 2021 homebuyer reports. So let's look at that. Nearly half of non-homeowners say that not having enough money saved for a down payment is holding them back. So that's why discussing, down payment assistance programs, how they work, how they can help you get into a home with very little cash out of pocket, is important. If you want to work with a large segment of buyers out there. So a bigger down payment can translate to a smaller, more affordable mortgage, but there's evidence some non-home buyers may be setting their sights unnecessarily high. So nearly three-quarters of renters say that a 20% down payment is required to buy a home, when in fact there are several options available for lower down payment mortgages. Takeaway on that: focus on first-time homebuyer programs that help with down payment funds. Get familiar with special programs in your local area and share this information with your audience in your sphere of influence. So which of the following is preventing you from pursuing home ownership or purchasing a home at this time? So the green is non-home owners and the blue are homeowners. So as we look at this graph real quick. So the cost of living has gotten too high. So non-home owners, 46% of them say that the cost of living is just too high. I don't have enough money saved. 45% of them are saying they don't have enough money saved. Homeowners, only 17% of them are saying that, because more than likely they're banking on the equity of their existing home to get them into their replacement home. Low income, their income isn't high enough. Lack of available homes within my budget, 33%. Their credit score, 35%. So what are ways they can, help improve their credit score? Maybe partnering up with a lender to help discuss that in some of your social media posts. Mortgage interest rates are too high. This was almost even, but I believe that this is going to start, adjusting as we go through the year, because more than likely we're going to see another half, three-quarter point drop towards the end of the year as we go through the year. Maybe better, but I'm trying to be kind of conservative on that. But we should be talking in the fives pretty regularly this year, even in conventional financing, conventional loans. Maybe after we get into quarter two, quarter three, we'll kind of see how the next Fed meeting goes. But current economic climate, the amount of debt I currently have. I believe the U.S. economy is headed for a recession, kind of a fairly small number, not even a 1/4%, or a quarter of the people surveyed. Housing market in my area is too competitive. That's, it's pretty valid. Lack of available homes for sale. I believe it's more affordable to rent versus buy, only 17%. You can see that homeowners, um, they don't believe that at all. It was 0%. Home ownership is no longer a priority to me, pretty small, and then other. So, um, most adult Gen Zers are tracking ahead of where their parents were at the same age. Um, so I think this is kind of important. Again, we were talking about Gen Z and millennials being, who is looking at buying a home this year. They are the largest segment, and they're tracking ahead of where their parents were as far as, where they are in life. So while the homeownership rate for adult Gen Zers has stagnated, a majority of them are still outpacing young people of the past. The homeownership rates for 19 to 25-year-old Gen Zers are higher than the homeownership rates were for millennials and Gen Xers when they were the same age. This is more likely because Gen Z homeowners bought during the pandemic when mortgage rates were at a record low. When many millennials were in their early 20s, most were struggling to find work due to the Great Recession, which made it harder to afford a home. And when Gen Xers were in their early 20s, they were grappling with some of the highest mortgage rates in history. For example, rates were around 11% in 1989, when the oldest Gen Xers were 24. So I think that was a kind of an interesting piece as well. This was based off of some data from Redfin. So you can see Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, and Baby Boomers. They kind of give the graph right there. So um, rounding it out, America's youngest homebuyers are financially savvy, which makes the process easier, said John Byram, a Redfin Premier agent in Northern Virginia. And it's true. They have, for the most part, I see the younger generation being more financially responsible and financially savvy. Um, so that, that's good if they're looking to get into home ownership. And that's why I think a lot of them are looking at home ownership because they understand the benefits of it. So Gen Zers have done their research. They know all the real estate jargon, and they are entering the housing market more educated than prior generations. I've talked about this over and over again with how much data is out there these days. You know, a lot of them already understand, and they do a lot of research before they even commit to a real estate agent. So that's why when you're getting these leads, from wherever you're getting them, sometimes they're not panning out right away. And we got to get out of that mindset of instant gratification. I got a lead, they want to buy a house. I got a lead, they want to buy a house sometime in the near future. They're prepping, they're getting, all of their finances in order, they're doing their research, and that takes many months for the most part. And that's why it's so important to develop a pipeline of right, in a database of people who are going to potentially buy it this year or even the next year. And as your database seasons in your contact management system, and they're being touched by you every week, every couple weeks, every month, you're staying in front of them because in the near future, they're going to raise their hand finally and say, you know what, I'm ready. I've got my finances in order, my credit's ready, my down payment is ready. I've done my research. I know where I want to live, and I want to go look at these homes. And that's generally what we see. Um, So some young first-time buyers are also coming in with financial help from family or co-buying with family members, which boosts their buying power. We discussed that a little earlier. And having savings because they've been living with their family rent-free. This is where we're at. The demographics changed a little bit from when a lot of us were younger. So what would it take for more buyers and sellers? A persistent lack of inventory has driven sustained high prices, even as demand was falling last year due to higher mortgage rates. So what would it take to turn the ship? Um, though new construction is going strong, I mean, I see new construction going up everywhere in my city, other cities. It would take a significant number of current homeowners selling their homes in pursuit of another to increase inventory in a meaningful way. Unfortunately, some of the things that current homeowners say would motivate them to buy another home in 24 are the very things that could depend on homeowner selling, which is going to be 29% of current homeowners would buy in 2024 if prices came down, or if the right home came along, or if there were more homes listed. So the people that are holding the inventory are actually waiting for more inventory, which is a tough predicament, I guess. Um, Lower mortgage rates, which are not dependent on home inventory, could tip some homeowners into the market, thereby increasing inventory as they sold their current home. So when they put their home up for sale, now there's a little bit extra inventory, and then they're going to go buy one, of course. So 6% of homeowners could be motivated to buy another home in 2024 if rates fell below 7%, 11% if rates fell below 6%, which is where we are right now, and 26% if rates went under 5%. That may not be until next year, but like I said, I'm expecting to be talking in the fives for the majority of this year. If we dip into the fours, I think it'd be phenomenal. I don't know if we're going to get there this year, but having conversations, we just saw today that we are right there in that range. I mean, conventional, yes, is 6%. Can you get under 6% with more down payment? Actually, most likely you can get right at that 6 or just a touch under. So if you're talking about rates being in the fives, that could spark some conversation from sellers that have been sitting on the market waiting because the interest rates are too high. They're locked into a lower rate, and they don't want to exchange that lower rate for an 8% or 7%. Will they exchange it for a high five? Okay, well, now that gap isn't so big. So, it's important to share data like this with your sphere of influence. Takeaway, just what I said, sharing interest rate data can not only help secure potential home buyers who have been waiting for rates to drop, but also secure listings from sellers who have also been waiting. So that is kind of the home buyer profile at the moment and probably what we're looking at for 2024. Hopefully this helps you, with some ideas on your content creation and how you're going to have conversations and who you're going to have conversations with too, so that you can generate, more buyers and sellers this year. I can post this in the live stream in the Facebook group if you want a copy of this document so that you can have these numbers. You can share these numbers with your audience. These were, this was all done off of surveys and things like that. So if you want to, share anything with your audience, I'll share this document in there. I'm gonna check chat real quick. Looks like no questions there. So, yeah, hopefully that helps you a little bit. Again, next week we're gonna talk about some very, very low cost slash free website options. Very easy to use websites. And if you are if you have board membership, then you have access to these websites. So, and they're pretty nice. And like I said, they're going to come templated out already with Rise Realty. So, any questions? Always schedule a time with me or call me up direct. And I hope everybody has a great week. We'll see you.